Hi guys, and welcome to the F1 Debate Show, episode 22. In this episode, we are going to be talking about the 2017 Pirelli tyre test that took place this week. We'll also be talking about the lift on the team radio bans for the rest of the season and the future. And then we'll also talk about a little bit about the transfers, transfer rumours, and obviously confirmations of those transfers. But the main story that we are going to be talking about this week is the Halo cockpit design. And basically the main news this week is that it actually has been stopped. Well, it won't be introduced up until 2018, which you could say is a bit of a positive amongst the paddock, because people are totally against this idea, and obviously it gives teams more time to actually develop this new Halo cockpit, or the canopy cockpit, or whatever you want to call it, which I think is a very good idea, because I mean Ferrari's interpretation of it wasn't exactly the prettiest of designs. People were very much against that idea. I think people were saying how ugly it looked. Obviously it looked like a flip-flop. People most famously joke for, and it just didn't go down well at all. They first ran this design in the Spanish testing at the start of 2016 season, and then Sebastian Vettel ran it again at Silverstone in FP1, a bit of a revised design, but still a very similar look. But obviously, as you're all aware, I think Red Bull did their own interpretation of the design, the canopy cockpit, the aero shield around the cockpit in Russia, and I think that is the more favourable design to go with. But however, I think teams are pretty much against that in terms of aerodynamics as well. We have obviously spoke about this before, but I think that obviously the big news is that we're not going to see it for 2017. We are going to see it for 2018. And I'm obviously not looking forward to it being introduced. It is going to be, in Formula One at some point, but I think I am pretty excited to see what maybe teams come up with. Maybe they might come up with a more better looking design. I hope teams go along with what Red Bull designed. You know what I mean? It looks more professional. Yeah. It looks more natural, apart from this cockpit thing. I was watching an interview with Toto Wolff, because obviously at the German Grand Prix he was talking about it to Craig Slater, and he was saying about how drivers felt claustrophobic in the cockpit with this design. Also poor visibility along it as well. So again, obviously visibility is massive in Formula One. Obviously you need to see where you're going, and have this little pole thing right in front of you. It's gonna distract you. So you can't be having that in Formula One when you're actually concentrating to overtake cars and be safe on a track. And then also with Red Bull's design, yes, it looks good. It probably is even better, and you can see it out of it a lot more, better than the flip flop, or whatever you want to call it. But also, what about when it rains, or when there's dirt on it? You're not going to see. There is no wipers on it. So maybe there is a design where they can come up with something like that, or maybe when they come in the pits, they can just give it a wipe and off they go. But in my personal opinion, I don't think they should actually introduce a protection cockpit, because I mean it is pathetic, if I'm honest with you. Formula One has always been open wheel, and that's how it should be. But I mean, times are changing. Obviously, the tragic events of Jules Bianchi has triggered this. It is going to happen, unfortunately. Obviously, the bad circumstances as well, and it is a bit of a joke, if I'm honest. But that is Formula One. That is the FIA. We've got to go with what they say. And so yeah, LC 2018. Well, this is probably the first time we'll see this Halo cockpit design. I mean, what's your opinions on this?
I don't want it. I mean, I hate it so much. It's so ugly in every single way, and we've said this many times. I mean, the FIA and the FOM, how many brains are in that room, and that's what they came up with. I mean, that literally looks like a child designed it. Exactly. It's ridiculous, and that's not even safe. Also, you look at it and you think, well, what about if that object, that piece of assembly, say that they're trying to avoid, a bit like when Felipe Massa in Hungary, so that little piece of assembly that could fly an inch to the left or an inch to the right of that pole, it could, this will not save them. This will not protect drivers, and also, as I said, JT, it's a distraction. Claustrophobia is a massive thing, because you're in this little hoop, this little flip flop, and it's just there's so many holes in this. It's 2018. If there's going to be protection, then I hope it's the Red Bull canopy, because that looks cool. It looks aerodynamic. It actually looks like it'll protect the drivers, because it's all around them, and it looks stylish for obviously fans who are watching Formula One, because the Halo cockpit doesn't. I mean, even the onboard cameras, I think it was Sebastian Vettel in FP1 at Silverstone, the onboard cameras looked unbelievable. Like, it was just like a big red hoop in front of the driver. There's so many holes in the Halo one. The Red Bull canopy I do like that. Now there's going to be protection in 18, which we all have to accept. But I've got to say that I hope it's the canopy. If it's Halo Cockpit, I mean, they're going to lose so many fans Formula One because they'll just think, well, what the hell's the point in this? The drivers will hate it, and also then, as you know, GP2 have more powerful engines, V8s, and they're actually now challenging the speed of Formula One cars. If Formula One gets a Halo Cockpit, a very ugly design, it's almost like Formula One becomes GP2 and GP2 becomes Formula One. So I hope the Halos, they're never in Formula One. But the only redemption in this, though, is that it's going to be delayed a year. So then so for two reasons. One, so now we can look forward to 2017 being just a normal season like it is now, and also that gives the FIA and the FOM another year to really, decide what to do. Maybe it's a rush decision, and I think it was, because it's strange, but they since Jules' accident in Japan 14, they were thinking, right, what are we going to do to improve safety? And then all the way through 2015, it was always on the back foot, obviously since Hungary, which the tragic event happened. And I mean, this is what they came up with. It's ridiculous. Safety needs to improve. Yes, that's fine. We all understand that. But the Halo is a wrong way to go. The Red Bull canopy is a step forward, and the Halo is a few steps behind. It's almost out the window. It's just ridiculous.
It is a very much rushed decision, but obviously they should not rush a decision like this because it has to be spot on. Like another death in Formula One should not occur if we do get a Halo Cockpit design, whether it's Ferraris, whether it's Red Bulls, whether it's the a full on canopy over, like a inside of an actual car. It has to be safe and it has to work. But also, it does need to take time, and also, well, I do believe they'll actually get rid of Ferrari's design, because that was pretty much a trial. Red Bull's design is more, the let's work on that. But as Elsie said, what's the point? You know what I mean? We will lose fans because of this. But you're on two things in mind. You don't want to lose fans, but also you want the drivers to be safe. So you're in two minds. It is daft, but what can you do? What can you do?
Yeah. What can you do?
Nothing for us anyway,
no. There's no way around it. But the next thing to move on to, which is good news, thankfully, in this video, it's good news, is that the sanctions on Team Radio have been lifted. Now, as you know, because of many incidents in the past, obviously the most famous one is Multi 21, Team Radio changed for what the FIA thought was the better. Basically, first thing to start off with is, obviously, as fans, we all criticise the drivers for saying that they don't drive. Obviously the pit wall give the drivers so much aid. They tell them what buttons to use, they tell them where to go, and obviously all the aids on the car. The drivers aren't in control anymore. So to make the drivers more in control, a bit like having the one clutch system, the FIA decided to change radio and make sanctions for that. If the engineers told any of the drivers vital information how to drive, that's how it's defined as how to drive. That would follow punishment. A bit like Jenson Button got, investigation anyway. But Jenson Button obviously had Lewis Hamilton in Baku, and obviously other examples over this season. And that was brought in. I mean, when it was first brought in, it was a massive change because drivers, they are very much in the blind out there, even though as fans we probably don't know it as much. They're very much in the blind out there, and they need so much help, and they couldn't get it from the team. For example, we've seen a lot of the time on the radio, like Lewis Hamilton, when to a box. Sorry, Lewis, we can't tell you that. And then he'll go kicking off. There's Kimi Raikkonen, there's Sebastian Vettel. Obviously, most of the older drivers are doing this, who lived through the era of when they were fed everything on the radio. And now, a few, they obviously couldn't do that up till now. But now, all of the race engineers, all of the team principals have had a meeting, and they've just basically, it's almost like when you have to try and overcome a bully at school. So you get all your friends involved, and it's like there's more of us than there is you. So, and that's what they've done. They've all come together. Obviously, Arriva Bene, Horner, they've all gathered up, and they've all gone to Eccleston, and they've said, Charlie White, and let's say Charlie White. We're not mentioning that guy's name in this video.
The guy who should not be
Charlie White. They've all gone to Charlie White, and they've said, come on, get rid of this. And then he said, yes, we will do that. So now, from the full season of 2017 onwards, it'll go back to the same. So basically, drivers can can get aid from the teams, when to box, what tyres to be on, race decisions, race strategies, just so much help. I think it will follow where there will be some tiny little sanctions brought in, and some kind of restrictions, because I mean sometimes race and radio can be a bit unfair. For example, like when a team will talk about another team and they'll try and for example undercut them when they say, well, this is when they're fuel saving and this is when we have to go aggressive. Obviously when they have a problem as well, but there is a lot of things that obviously drivers need to know. For example, where they are in the race, who's in front, who's behind, the gaps, the margins, when they can use DRS, and obviously again aids into the corners, what's the best line and stuff to take into this. I don't know what it is at the moment, that's why I'm just guessing, but I've got a feeling that now that it's unrestricted, it will go back to small restrictions in the future. But JT, we're back to Multi21, aren't we? With the radio, so I mean, how amazing is this for Formula One?
It is good, if I'm honest, because I mean, when you watch it on the telly, you love to hear the chat between the team radio, the team and the driver. It is fun. It is fun to hear how how they're trying to outcast each other and outplan each other, and obviously for the big reason I would say is safety reasons, because I mean when you had Jensen Button saying that that his brake pedal is going all the way to the floor, and the team couldn't tell him anything about it. He then complained, saying, "Look, so you're telling me that this isn't a hazard? You know what I mean? This is a massive joke." And he had a bit of a rant about it. And a couple of days after that, they announced that that this ban would be lifted. And it is good. It is a very sensible decision, if I'm honest. It's like we said. Now teams can now understand the car more. They can drive it, because they're only human. They're not robots. Of all these buttons and everything, that they do need assistance. The only time that the team can't talk to the driver is on the formation lap, because now you've got manual start and everything now, because beforehand the team used to say, right, do this and do that at the start, whereas now it's all down to the driver, which is good, because there's nothing really much to it, and there's not much to see. It's more a natural start. That is good. But when you're in the race, there's a lot of things for the driver to think about. And that's why the team is there, because that's why the team, the pit wall is there. Otherwise, I mean, if you had these rules in, then what's the point in them being there? You know what I mean? It's all down to the driver. So I am happy. I am happy they are back. I hope it does stay, for a lifetime. When I first heard this, I thought it was only going to be till the start of the 2017 season. But then I heard it was going to be in place from the German Grand Prix onwards. So again, that was fantastic. Probably the best decision Formula One has made in it. Probably since introducing the old qualifying format. 2016 has been a bit of a year of controversial decisions. This is one of them. This is now, this is gone. It feels like a new formula all of a sudden, because we haven't seen or haven't heard, those communications in a long time.
It's almost like they're trying to rewrite Formula One, obviously with how the cockpits will look and the radios and the tyres. There's so much. It's almost like we're rewriting Formula One. Those 65 years we had 65 years of great Formula One. This is a trial and error year, and then the next 65 years we're working on.
Exactly. So I think I think F1 just leave it alone. It's good the way it is. Bring back the V8. I think I think we'll be on for a good Formula. But one of the things that they are bringing back actually is wider tyres for 2017. And Ferrari have been testing these tyres. This is the first time that these tyres have been tested since their announcement. Ferrari have been doing a 2-day test this week on August 1st and 2nd. Ferrari and Sebastian Vettel have been testing them on the first day. Esteban Gutierrez did the second day, I believe. And they have got a bit of a schedule of these tyres, and I'll go through them with you just quickly. Red Bull will be testing the slicks on August the 3rd and the 4th. Ferrari will be again testing the slicks. The first time they tested the wets, in Barcelona on September the 6th to the 7th. But also on that same weekend, the 6th, 7th and the 8th, at the Paul Ricard circuit, Mercedes will have their chance to test the new tyres out, again the slicks. Same again a few weeks later at the Paul Ricard test, Paul Ricard circuit rather, is that Mercedes will be doing testing the slicks. Barcelona, Mercedes again on October 12th to the 13th, they'll be testing the slicks. Abu Dhabi, Red Bull again slicks on August 14th, 15th to the 16th. November the 2nd to the 3rd, Abu Dhabi for the Red Bull again for the wets. November the 14th to the 15th to the 16th, Abu Dhabi Ferrari slicks. And on November the 29th, all the teams will be testing these tyres. Now, when I was looking at this schedule the first time, I was like, I don't understand why Ferrari, Mercedes, and Red Bull have priority to test these tyres. every team should get an opportunity to test these tyres. Yes, they all get to test them at the final weekend of the season, but that's not the point. They need as much data as they can. They need as much testing as they can.
Yeah. And also as well, it's the midfield teams, the lower teams. They need more of the chance, because just imagine if like the midfield teams and the lower teams, obviously like with Haas, Renault, Force India, Sauber, all those, if they had more priority in terms of testing, they might end up being ahead of they'll better tyre management, and then overall maybe more bringing the fight more so for Mercedes and Red Bull, because they are the top teams, as you mentioned, JT. So it's almost like they're getting more of an advantage. You already have an advantage now, also heading into 2017, but they're getting a bigger advantage because they're doing more of the testing.
Exactly,
so it's not fair.
It isn't fair. It should be distributed like evenly, shared out. You know what I mean? Like Ferrari do a couple of days here, then Red Bull, then McLaren, then Force India, and so forth. So all the teams have had a go, and then because obviously testing is limited, I think to only 2 tests now, so you're not going to have much data going through for these tyres, and obviously you need a lot of data to understand what these tyres, how they work. And it's good that they're going to places like Paul Richards, Barcelona, Abu Dhabi, different climates, cold, hot, wet, dry, you know what I mean? So it is good that they're going through different countries and different tracks, but at the same time all these teams should be testing them. But I must admit they look really nice, if I'm honest, because I think beforehand they were looking to go for a very thinner design, because I think the tyres now are about 12 centimeter width, and they were going to go for an 18 centimeter width. Obviously a lot more thinner tyres, which obviously I would imagine the tyre wear would pretty much go probably by lap 2, just by how thin the tyres were. But I think this is the better option. It does look more natural, looks more racy, and then obviously the cars look more what they used to, more aerodynamic as well. But also probably in the pictures, as you can see below, the Ferrari's rear wing is actually like bent slightly at the bottom half of it. So again, that's probably a bit of a sign of what to expect in 2017. The car looks absolutely fantastic. Obviously Sebastian Vettel tests now on the 2015 car, so jumping back into that. I don't know exactly. I don't know the real data, the actual data from it. I don't know, and again, I don't know if he was testing a harder compound or a softer compound, or maybe it was just a trial and error compound, or a beta version compound. You know what I mean? Maybe it's not like official confirmation. It's like it doesn't really matter if it's soft or hard. You know what I mean? Or they could bring a softer version and a harder version. I really don't know. Probably are keeping this quiet. So yeah, LC, why the tyres are back. Ferrari are testing them now. I mean, how good do you think they'll look? I mean,
they look amazing. They look absolutely amazing, JT. They look like the old 1970s cars. They look unbelievable. And do you want to know what I think? Obviously, there's tyres on the track, but do you want to know what I think is going to be the biggest challenge to the teams for next season with those wider tyres on the rear? Pit stops.
Tyres.
I know it's only a small thing, but it's not so much them holding them. It's just like the strategy will change, as we know. Pirelli. Pirelli have done an amazing job. They're probably very high up in gratitude in Formula One. They're changing it with the strategies of the tyres. It's like tyres are probably on that big pie of Formula One. You've got the driver, then you've got the team, then you've got the tyres. But the pit stops will be better. They'll be faster, but also as well, as we know, Williams, the fastest, the fastest team at the moment, winning. I think it's almost all of the races so far in terms of the DHL Pit Stop Award. But these tyres, they'll be harder to fit on pit stops. They'll be better to play out. Obviously, pit stop, I don't know if they'll be able to go longer or shorter. As you know, when you're watching a race, a lot of the time the commentators will strain on is Hamilton, for example, going to do a 1-stop? Is Rosberg going to do a 2-stop? Who's doing what? Who's pitting when for what kind of stops? And the tyres and pit stops working together will be unbelievable. And also as well, the good thing, testing can only tell you so much. A bit like winter testing, every single year. No one's racing at that time. But that's why I'm thinking that maybe the first half of the year, JT, in 2017. So technically, this time next year, after coming into the summer break, after round, 10 or 11 rounds after the start of the 2017 season, I think we'll be sitting here talking about how the teams have managed the tyres. And I think a lot of those times we'll be talking about them is trial and error. And that's what's going to be good, because do you know what? I'm only going ahead of myself, but what happens if Mercedes mess up on the tyres and then Renault get it right, and then David Croft goes, and Kevin Magnussen crosses the line to win the Monaco Grand Prix? The only Dane we've had, is he the only Dane we've had on the podium on the top step? Yes, he is. Yes, that would be be great. I don't mean Ken Magnussen win the race. We're getting a bit too ahead of
How
ourselves.
do you know Ken Magnussen will actually
yeah.
race for Renault next season?
Because he told us, mate. He rang us, you know, Kevin. I've got him on speed dial, you know. And also as well, you know, why didn't I say Julian Palmer? But yeah, anyway, so tyres and pit stops will play in amazing next year. I can't wait to see that. That's the best news I think of this episode so far, JT. The tyres is going to be amazing. Are you liking the look? Are you liking the feel? Are you liking the anticipation?
When they announced these tyres, I was like, you know what? I don't know how. Obviously, I didn't have a visual picture in my head. They said they were going to be bigger and wider, and I was like, it might not look nice. They might look too wide. They might look too big. But then when Pirelli released them on like a concept car, I was like, that is, you know, approval. Definitely a massive approval from me. 25% wider than the 2016 tyres. So we are in for some good races. Like you said, LC, loads of pit stops. Strategy wise has to be key. And I will see how the different compounds actually work. Like, for example, the softer tyres might work better than the medium tyres. You know what I mean. Yep. So I don't know. And again, I would like to see how the wet compounds will look, how the wet compounds react. Because Sebastian Vettel
that'd be amazing.
tested some of them. He tested the slicks, and then he tested the wets. Yeah. So I don't know the results of that. But you know what? I think I am excited for next season. If I'm honest, the new look, new tyres.
They're going to be amazing.
Watch this space. Watch this space.
Yes, watch this space. So at the moment, we've talked about the tyres for next season, the Halo cockpit, which isn't happening for next season, the radio for next season, but let's get on to the drivers for next season. Now, a lot of them have been signed, but there's a lot of people out there in the market in Formula 1 at the moment who haven't been signed, and we're going to make our silly season part 2 near the end of the summer break, obviously with the drivers who hopefully have been signed at that point. It's getting down to a T, but let's talk about the drivers who are yet to be signed yet. And the biggest person that I want to talk about, and he's signed at the moment for a team, but he could leave Formula 1 in the next few days or weeks, is Rio Haryanto of Manor. Now, he's maybe a bit of a different person to talk about in terms of transfers, but as was mentioned in the German Grand Prix a lot of the time, is that his Indonesian backers, his finance, his sponsorship might pull out of Formula 1. Now, I don't like to believe this, but unfortunately it is, and as JT said, money runs Formula 1. So if the money goes, unfortunately the driver's going to go as well. And also, you've got a team like Manor who need that money, who need that. For example, like you had, Roberto Merri, he was struggling on finance. Alexander Rossi, the biggest one is Will Stevens, obviously from the UK, near Essex. His money just went, and that's where he went. So that was a real shame. I hope that doesn't happen to Rio. He's a great driver to have in Formula 1. But it's one of those things. I mean, if he drove for Mercedes or whatever, it might not be the biggest worry. But Manor need that money. That's what's important to them. That's a real shame. It's a bit like having a small business. If the money goes, then that's, money runs the whole topic. But anyway, sorry, getting off Manor, because he's not a transfer that might not sign. But the person I want to start with in the transfer talk is the man who used to drive for this team, and that is Daniel Kvyat. Now, on a confidence level and on a mental level, he is at the bottom. He was almost on the verge of crying for the second time this season in Germany. He just had an abysmal weekend from start to finish, and actually that video that I shared on the page on the after Saturday qualifying was terrible. Now his mental status is really, really bad, and it could get a lot worse, as Toro Rosso haven't signed him yet, and he could be out. So basically, he could see himself start of 2016, starting his second season with Red Bull, getting kicked down, getting kicked down the stairs, but then getting kicked out the door. Find himself, not in a drive at all, and that's a real. He's barred. It's a real shame. Yeah, once he was on the counter drinking, an ice cold pint of lager, and then he got kicked back into the snow, and then he got kicked out the door again.
This is like he was in a bar having a quiet drink, having a good laugh. Everyone was getting along with them. There was a fight going on next to him. He tried to break up that fight, and then now he's getting punished for it. Poor kid.
Hopefully that fight's better than his sumo wrestling. If you don't know what that is, that was on Sky F1. I'll try and find a link to that. Obviously one of the funniest things I've ever seen. But Daniel Kvyat is very upset about what's going to happen to him, and I've got to say, you have to feel for this guy, don't you, JT? I really do. He might not be the driver, but he certainly is a driver worthy of being in Formula 1, is he not?
Yes, I mean, he is a very talented driver. He has shown that. That's why he got promoted to Red Bull after only one season.
Yep.
And then he was capable of winning races and getting on the podium as well. I mean, he did fantastic at the start of the year, but I believe I think Red Bull favoured Verstappen in terms of Danny Kiewit,
Yep.
and I think it was pretty much like a bit of an excuse just to say, look, let's get rid of Danny and bring in Max because we see more potential in Max, and he'll drag in more attention. And now, obviously, Danny Kiewit is now facing the consequences of it, and I do feel really sorry for him. I do hope he does stay in Formula One for another year. Toro Rosso have said we're not taking the mick. Basically, if Danny Kiewit delivers results, we'll sign him. And just like any other driver, they can't treat him differently to what Carlos Sainz or to what they did to Ricciardo and everybody else. If he delivers results, he'll stay. If he doesn't deliver results, he'll go. But then if they do let him go, then I think people are going to be criticising Toro Rosso because it's like, if Danny Kiewit isn't in the best frame of mind, he was a good driver, he's making a fool out of him, and they're going, well, no, because he didn't deliver. So.
And also, who else is going to want to go to Toro Rosso? And obviously, GP2, a GP2 driver from France, Pierre Gasly, who I think will take Toro Rosso's seat very, 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 very soon. One of the, by the way, we are going to make a video about the GP2 drivers who are worthy of, I think, being in Formula One in the next few seasons. But Pierre Gasly, I mean, do you know what? He might even be open for it next season. Now, who's going to want to go to Toro Rosso if they kick Daniel out? Because then they'll think, well, he's an amazing driver. He went from a Red Bull driver to just a human. And yeah, that's enough about Danny Kvyat. The next driver I want to talk about, though, is the biggest one. Now, we heard the statement from Claire Williams, Rob Smedley, and then also from the man himself, Jenson Button, when me and JT went to Silverstone, and that is about this man going to Williams. Now, I've got to say, I first mentioned it when I did the solo video a few months ago when JT was absent on the Silly Season Part 1, about Jenson going to Williams. Now, this is just my opinion, but now apparently it's, that's out on the table there. Now, Fernando Alonso has been signed by a McLaren, so he's definitely safe, and there's no talk about him. For example, like going back to Ferrari, which I'm sure there was a big hype about before he was re-signed. I didn't think that, but I did, kind of open me optimism to think, well, Fernando did very well at Ferrari, very, very, very well, and obviously now he's hit the bottom. But anyway, so Fernando's been signed, but Jenson is open. And Williams could be on the table for him. Now, he did say when we went to Silverstone, JT, he said to the guy who was doing the interviews, something like, well, first, I don't believe a word that you said. But could you see this happening?
I can't see it happening. But do I think it's going to happen? Now, I don't know, because I think, obviously, he's got to replace someone at Williams, and that driver more likely will be Felipe Massa. And it's like, where does Massa go? Does Massa want to be in Formula 1? Will he go down the grid? Will he go to Sauber and maybe help them for a bit? Will he go to Renault? Will he go off to, pass his new, retire from Formula 1 and maybe go to endurance racing or go to do something else?
Yeah.
And if that is the case, and I think, yes, if Massa does announce before Jenson announces where he's going, if Massa say, right, I'm leaving Formula 1, then more or less it is going to be Jenson filling in that seat. And obviously, filling McLaren's seat was definitely going to be Stoffel Van Dorn. There has been talks about that. But anyways, it would be a very good signing if Williams do get Jenson. He's got the experience, he's got the knowledge, he's got the skill. So, I mean, why not? They'll be daft not to. And Williams is more competitive than McLaren. Bear in mind they're having a shocker of a season this season compared to the last 2 seasons. Let's not forget. If they can produce a very good car that can produce race wins, then Jenson would, snap your hand off, because he said, I want to be in Formula 1 with a team who can win races and win championships. I think he has got another world championship in him. You just need to give him the right car. But you could also argue maybe McLaren might provide that car for him. But then Williams could also do that as well, because they've got a Mercedes engine. Then Honda could progress. You really don't know in these situations. Only Jenson knows what's going on, so we can only guess. We can only guess what we've seen in the papers. So, I'm gonna see. Actually, I'm gonna keep my opinion for when we do our 2017 driver predictions. That's what I'm going to do.
Wait for that.
I don't know if I've given it away or not just by what I've said, but I will keep my opinion to that video.